Welcome. Today we will be discussing the victim control dynamic. What is it? It is a manipulation strategy that people use to flip the script. So all of a sudden, they're no longer who they were, you're no longer who you were, and other people don't actually see what's going on. They just see the filter and lens that's being put over their eyes. And it's super frustrating. The victim control dynamic is something that people create. It's not natural. So it's a conflict that they bring about, or they contribute to it. Otherwise, they just lie and make things up completely. So nothing actually occurred and they'll just say it did. So obviously you react because that's triggering, like being lied to, being manipulated, being told that you did something wrong when they did. Obviously any human's gonna feel negative about that. It's kind of like when a child hits somebody else and then says, oh, they hit me. Of course the kid that actually got hit is going to get mad, and they're gonna either hit them back or they're gonna yell or scream or cause a ruckus. Kids do this, but as they learn, they actually do this in adulthood, and it happens all day, every day throughout the earth. Once you react, they blame your reaction. And then they get people to side with them. You get more upset. And they make you the bad guy, and they are now the victim. So how does this exactly work? How do people manage to make it where people don't see the problem with their actions? Well, it's very simple. Let's say this is person A, this is person B, and this is person C. Person A annoys person B. Person B then reacts to person A. Now, person C walks in and they see person B reacting to person A. This is when person A steps in and tells person C that person B was the problem. So all they see is person B, while person A is the one that is actually annoying person B. Person B is reacting to person A. But then it's this whole mess, and that's how we get the chaos of the victim control dynamic. Why does this occur? Because people don't want to be accountable. When they do something wrong, it's much easier to blame everybody else. That's most people's reaction. It's fight or flight. What do? They fight. Because running away makes them seem like they obviously did it. So when does it usually happen? When somebody else is nearby, or they go and contact someone else and get them involved. Now there's a triangulation, right? There's a triangle. There's this whole situation that occurs that now it's more than one person or more than two people feeling these things, and perceptions start to get questioned and changed. Person A is starting or contributing to the situation. Person B is just their puppet. They're pretty much playing a puppet show. But then person C is the real puppet who's getting played by person A, and everybody's getting played by person A. But person C walks in and thinks they are the good guy, that they're helping, that they are the rescuer of the underdog. People that manipulate through the victim control dynamic are doing something very abusive. Abuse is abuse. It doesn't matter if they mean to do it, and it doesn't matter if they're aware of what they're doing. The bottom line is playing victim in a situation that you created is toxic. So many people don't want to look at when they've made a mistake or they're wrong. their ego's too big. They have too much pride, and they're just wanting to make it seem like everybody else is at fault but them. In their eyes, they're a saint. They're perfect. So obviously the person that actually was mistreated is going to feel how they feel about that. It's really hard to keep calm in a situation like that while it's happening, because it gets so like intense, and you just feel like just breaking something and yelling and screaming, because it's infuriating. Like, this person just did something to you and now you're the bad guy. Or they just made up a lie and told someone else that you're the one that did that to them. Or they themselves are that delusional that they'll tell themselves and you that you did that to me, even though they're clearly the one that's wrong and they did it to you. Trying to ration with and negotiate or communicate with somebody who's convinced that they're right is pointless. And when they are wanting to frame you falsely, there's no way you're going to prove that you didn't do it, or that you didn't mean to, or that they actually did it. Not to them, not to others. And you might start to feel crazy. They're the crazy ones. But when people walk in, you look like the crazy one, especially if you're reacting. If you don't react, people might start to question, why are they saying that? Because the person that they're accusing seems perfectly okay and like they're calm. And how do I believe them? But when you react, they say, look, they're crazy. Look how angry they are. They're upset. Or when you react, if it's just you and them, they'll say, why are you yelling at me? It's gaslighting. It makes you actually question your reality. Like, did I just see that? Did that just happen to me? Did they just smack me? Or did they just yell at me? Or did they just do this abusive, toxic thing that they did, that lying, cheating, stealing, whatever it is? You doubt your own psyche, and that's exactly what it's designed to make you do, because then they get to get away with what they did, and you get to feel like you messed up, or something's wrong with you, or like you're the bad guy. People that walk in and see this side with the person that's manipulating, because it's kind of like their whole system is being hijacked. They're being made to feel like you did something wrong because that's all they saw. So that's all they can go based off of. You might be the one acting out in that moment, but they didn't see what happened right before it. So now this illusion is created. It's like they're a master of this disguise, and they hide behind this mask where they're smiling, but here they're just like, oh my gosh, they did this to me. And people believe the mask because that's all they see and that's all they know. But you, although you might try to keep your composure externally and be like, what the heck? You might actually feel really like frustrated and just riled up inside and wanting to like just act out. And so most of the time people do. And then that internal rage comes out and they're just like looking furious and belligerent and angry. And so they'll be like, well, why are you angry? And why did you do that to me? And they'll make false accusations or misrepresent statements or the actual facts of the events that took place, only for then the person that they're triangulating with to agree with them, because that's what it looks like. Everything's not what it seems. And this happens in all kinds of scenarios, whether it's domestic violence, whether it's co-working spaces, relationships where it's just one-on-one with another person, or in friend groups. It happens in society all the time, in public media and in politics. It's a great tactic for narcissistic and manipulative people to deflect. They get to just put all their trash and junk onto others and act like their shit doesn't stink, but it does. and all of a sudden their shit's on you because you're reacting in a shitty way, and it smells like you are the one that's the culprit and the bad one, but it's really them. And like, no amount of you explaining that to other people is going to say or prove anything, because they don't believe words at that point. They just believe in action, and it looks like you're the one that's crazy. So of course you start to feel crazy and gaslit. This is intentional. The person knows what they're doing usually. And if they don't, then they really best be aware, because this isn't something that's just a mistake or an accident. They're putting you in harm's way for something they just did. And then they're making it seem like you did it, or they're lying and saying like you straight up did something that you never even did. And they'll weaponize your emotions. They'll weaponize your anger, your frustration, and use that to their advantage to maneuver the situation in a way where they get to escape. They get to wipe the slate clean of any and all accountability and responsibility, and all of a sudden everything is thrown onto you. You're put in the limelight, you're the bad one, and that's all that people focus on. They don't focus on anything good that you did. They don't pay attention to the red flags about the other person. All of that is just out of their line of sight. They're blind to it. And even if you tell them or try to express yourself, the more you do from that upset place, the crazier you seem, the cycle repeats itself, and you can go mad. Some people do. They lose their minds, they lose their careers, they lose their relationships, their homes, and even perhaps take their own life, because this abusive, toxic, and dysfunctional technique and dynamic can lead people over the edge. So it's a lot less harmful when it's just on a playground with a couple kids, and then one kid doesn't get to prove that the other one was the one that did it, because let's face it, stuff like that happens all the time in elementary school. But when there's real world consequences, financial ones or relational ones or health ones, and people's lives are actually impacted, it's a whole other story. The step to avoid this kind of situation, if possible, that you can take at first is to notice people that do this. That way you're not caught in a mess with them, because you see that it's a pattern that they tend to do, like playing victim in situations they have caused, created, and contributed to. You can also just remove yourself as quickly as possible from the scenario to be able to calm down. Usually the first thing you do is you feel like you have to react or prove your point. But the sooner you get yourself to a calm and regulated nervous system state, the more you can actually effectively address what occurred. Remember what you saw, remember what happened, and speak your truth calmly, quietly, and not look like a fool or a crazy. If they get other people involved, you can calmly as possible ask, why are you telling this other person something that's not true? Or just say, I disagree and I believe you just did that to me, and leave. Don't sit there trying to explain what happened, why it happened, unless you're really obligated or required to by others that are in positions of power. And if you have a choice, the best thing to do is to leave the situation, exit the conversations, and not try to make other people side with you, because that also makes you look a little weird. When you remove yourself, it can make other people question, like if you're just avoiding or running away from responsibility, but they'll also be like, wow, that person said that they disagree, they didn't react, and they left. So it makes their whole charade like come off as a little bit of a facade, like what they're saying isn't adding up. So their whole strategy starts to fall apart. they bank on you reacting and continuing to get more and more upset. So the more upset you get, the more they can say, you're the one that did it, you're the bad guy, and act like they're the victim. It's a wolf in sheep's clothing technique. And it can make people just lose their entire mind and drift away if they don't catch it in time. They can get groups of people and entire communities to side against them or cancel them online through social media and public exposure, where they spread gossip and smear campaign others that literally didn't do anything wrong. And they get away with it. They actually get defended, and people bolster their ego, support them, and side with them. And you can imagine how hurtful that is to another human being. People that do this lack empathy. They are unaware of their blind spots, or they are aware and they're exploiting other people's blind spots and vulnerabilities. It's frustrating to witness. So if you get pulled in by other people in this kind of dynamic, don't get pulled in, and notice when it's happening so you can save yourself from getting triangulated with into this whole dysfunctional dance. The more you can discern when other people are using the victim control dynamic, the better off you'll be with not getting involved in their drama and conflict and not siding with the wrong person. So careful what you listen to and who you believe, because some people are really good at pretending and wearing a mask.